Hello, my name is Kirsty Richards and I'm here representing the SunPork Group. We appreciate the opportunity to present our world first recruitment and employment program, Autism and Agriculture, that sees us employ autistic people in animal care roles on our farms. To begin, what is SunPork and what do we do that brings me here today? SunPork is the largest pork producer in Australia, representing around 20% of national pork production. We own over 52,000 sows, or 550,000 pigs at any given point in time, across 47 farms in 4 states, Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria and South Australia, with a further 6 farms in New Zealand. We process pork largely through 4 processing facilities that we own, supplying pork products to around 1,700 supermarkets nationally and internationally. SunPork is committed to the responsible and ethical care of our pigs, to safeguard their comfort, health and welfare, and to continuous improvement in animal welfare through investment, research and development. Here today I'm focusing on how we perceive our Autism and Agriculture program has benefited the welfare of not only our pigs, but further our people and our communities. To provide just a little background on autism, autism is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition that affects the way a person relates to others and experiences the world. Autistic people can experience discomfort and increased levels of stress in many social situations. They can also experience discomfort with certain sensory stimuli. They often have a different way of problem solving, an intense approach to interests, and difficulties picking up on social cues. Difficulties with short-term memory, planning, taking the initiative, and prioritising are commonly part of the condition. Estimates suggest 1 to 2% of the population are autistic. It is generally considered to be more common in males than females, and that has certainly been our experience with reference to the gender balance in SunPork's program. Siblings are more likely to be on the spectrum, as are parents, which again has been borne out in our experience at SunPork, and which for families impacted by autism brings with it an additional layer of challenge. Often they're not just supporting one family member to navigate a world largely designed for neurotypical or non-autistic people, but potentially 2 or more family members. Whilst each autistic person is different, autism is characterised by 4 common experiences. The first of these is social communication and interaction deficits. So what this means is things like the everyday back and forth of conversation. So for example, you'll often find that autistic people take a very literal interpretation to conversation. So if you say it's raining cats and dogs, they may think you mean that it's raining cats and dogs. It also refers to difficulties with non-verbal communication. So for example, things like maintaining eye contact, picking up on sarcasm and jokes, and reading facial expressions. We were once told by an autistic person that to them faces seem like unreadable masks. It refers to challenges understanding and digesting emotion, to initiating social interaction, developing and maintaining relationships, and to adjusting behaviour to suit social context. So, for example, understanding unwritten rules such as meeting etiquette. It also includes speech and processing delays. Sadly, this lends itself to autistic people from a very young age, finding it very difficult to fit in, to establish social connections and to making friends. They may be considered rude, inconsiderate, insensitive, odd, or as animal welfare expert Dr. Temple Grandin, who is autistic, once told us, as nerds. It's important to understand that it's not that autistic people don't want to fit in. It's that they find it very challenging to do so, and that largely we live in a world where they don't fit in the box. The second common experience in autism is sensory issues. What this refers to are difficulties processing intake from the body's sensory systems that may manifest in different ways, including aversive responses. So we're talking here about difficulties processing taste, sound, visual inputs, so difficulties with, for example, brightness, flashes, patterns, for example in carpets or clothing, and contrasting colours. To give an example in our case, the sharp contrast between being inside a shed and moving outside into the glare between sheds. It may include touch, so sensitivities to being touched around personal space, or for example around the feel of clothing, fabrics, tags, hats or boots against the skin. Also smell, so for example in our case the smell of livestock, which we've variably seen manifest as anything from a very strong aversion to individuals who describe that they quite like it. And within the sensory context, we also have proprioception and vestibular sensory input, which is about understanding where your body is in space so that you maintain balance. Using an example from our farms, this might manifest as difficulties maintaining balance climbing into and out of pens, or pinpointing where an animal is in space when you're approaching it. Then we have the third common experience, which is routine. Autistic people often have a preference for routine, but it's very important that you understand that this does not mean that they're inflexible. What it does mean is that when working with an autistic person, you need to be considerate, try and stick to schedules to avoid springing change on them, and where change is unavoidable, it's best to communicate this as early and clearly as possible. The fourth common experience is anxiety, for which the signs are very much the same as they would be for you and I. For example, a racing heart, toe tapping, and other physiological and physical signs of distress. However, for autistic people, this experience is intensified and often very challenging for them to manage. It could be stimulated by a change in routine, unclear instruction, not knowing what to expect, a sensory or social challenge, and they can develop and escalate very quickly. As an employer, it is absolutely on us to recognise our employees' potential for anxiety and to do our best to manage the work environment to minimise situations in which it might arise. Having noted these common experiences, it's really important that I highlight and that you take home that autism is a spectrum. Each individual is different. The saying goes, if you've met one autistic person, you've met one autistic person. Difficulties mustn't be interpreted as a lack of capability or motivation. What may be considered a difficulty is also a strength. So, for example, a desire for routine in our case has for some translated to high attendance rates at work and an ability to stick to a work instruction once there. So it's really about recognising the potential for the common experiences that I've described, working to an individual's strengths, recognising their challenges for what they are, and building systems to support them. So what is autism and agriculture? Well, it's a collaboration between SunPork, the AutismCRC, PorkCRC, and Specialist Earner, a Danish neurodiversity employment specialist, to create career paths for autistic people, to employ their diverse skills, and to build employment capacity for autistic people in animal care. And it's a program designed to optimise animal care in Australian agriculture by harnessing the diverse skills of autistic people, including for some, a strong affinity for animals, attention to detail and direction, and a desire for routine. In developing the program, we've recognised some of the challenges for autistic people in employment, including that traditional recruitment processes are challenging and not suited to autistic people. Having described just now some of the social and communication challenges for autistic people, you can only imagine how poorly suited the traditional resume and interview process is for them. The program also recognises the high unemployment rates and the fact that autistic people are generally coming to you with little to no experience in the workplace and often a limited skill set. Estimates place autistic people's labour force participation rate at only 42%, by contrast with 53% for people with disabilities and over 80% for people without disabilities. Further, where they are employed, they're often underemployed, that is, employed or paid below their skills or education level, or for less than their capable hours. They often find skilled employment difficult to find and hard to retain, and that's despite them being capable and motivated. There's generally poor workplace understanding of autism and inadequate support systems. And a combination of their autism and its impact on their ability to independently support themselves leaves them at significant economic, social, and individual disadvantage. At the same time, we recognise the labour force challenges for agriculture, including there being a shortage of qualified labour and a drain on that labour to other sectors such as mining. In the face of this, agriculture has an imperative to maintain standards of animal care and further, to innovate in order to improve animal welfare outcomes. So when we look collectively at the employment challenges for autistic people and for agriculture, we saw a natural synergy, and it was from this that the program was born. Fundamental to the Autism and Agriculture program are two key concepts. The first of these is equity, in particular, understanding the difference between equality or sameness, where everyone is treated the same, and equity or fairness, where everyone's needs are recognised. In taking an equitable approach with autism and agriculture, we are talking about the systems we needed to put into place, not only to support our autistic employees, but also our neurotypical employees. So for our autistic employees, equitable means things like providing a non-confronting recruitment pathway with no interviews, taking the time needed to identify and accommodate sensory needs, and to teaching tasks and allowing people to show us what they can do rather than having them speak to it. And for our neurotypical staff, it's about providing an awareness of autism, support for the workplace, and opportunities to engage and to be involved. The second concept underpinning autism and agriculture is that it is inclusive, not creating any perceived or actual divisions within our farming teams, and ensuring that whatever we set up, it's accessible for everyone. There are autism employment programs out there that function more in an integration or even segregation type model, as you can see in the lower right of this slide. But our intention was always to be fully inclusive. Our autistic employees are employed within the same framework, at the same pay rates, in the same workplaces as their teammates. So briefly, what are some of the features of the autism and agriculture model? Firstly, we've adapted traditional recruitment concepts and removed both resumes and interviews. We ask prospective employees to provide information about themselves using a format of their choice, which often includes captioned photographs. We ask them to communicate, using photographs if they would like, why they think they would like to work with our animals, and what they think working with animals might do for them. And we've had some incredible responses, as you can see just some snippets of here. We learned so much more than any resume or interview could ever tell us. Our applicants are able to use a comfortable, flexible format to communicate to us without judgment, pretty much anything that they think might be relevant. We then set up a virtual or a mock piggery at an off-farm, more familiar style of location, so sort of classroom or conference room style, where we expose our applicants to the piggery set up in a controlled, relatively familiar environment. Family or other support people are welcome, and we do things like try on piggery clothing and boots and work through any sensory challenges with them. We learn to inject oranges, and we listen to pre-recorded sounds of livestock. We have our maintenance teams build pens, so our trainers can run through the mechanics of checking feeders and drinkers and opening and closing gates. Now, this was all designed to start the practical farm experience in a safe, controlled environment, at the same time to commence the relationship building process, and most importantly, to help reduce anxiety by gradually familiarising with the farm environment. After an overnight break, we take our recruits out to the farm where we mirror everything the candidates did at the virtual piggery, but now in the actual farm situation. We keep the same people, individuals wear the same clothing, and we undertake the same tasks, for example, checking feeders and drinkers, as we had the previous day in the off-farm environment. This graduated introduction to the piggery environment has worked very successfully and really helps to calm the waters for individuals. We work to keep as much consistent as possible while introducing well-communicated and controlled change. And from there we move into a 2-week on-farm training program focusing on core pig husbandry skills with farm trainers and mentors working side by side with our trainees. We support this with customised videos and explicit plain English written work instructions. This allows our autistic trainees to learn job skills from scratch and to show us what they can do, rather than have to tell us or even be expected to know what to do. At the same time, it allows them to try different tasks and work out their areas of interest, their strengths, and any points of challenge. It also allows us to identify what tasks they might be suited to, what their training and support needs are, and who within our teams might best mentor and support them. The entire recruitment process is paid, and it has a strengths-based orientation. We're not looking to weed people out because they don't fit a mould or a role. We're looking to work with each individual to provide them an opportunity to learn, to gain some understanding of their capabilities, and to work out what tasks they might be suited to. It's 100% a focus on the person rather than the position, and that's a real shift in paradigm from traditional recruitment processes. At the same time as we're working to provide the best possible opportunity for our candidates, recognising their social communication and sensory challenges, we also acknowledge the challenge of change and the importance of supporting our neurotypical workforce. To this end, and recognising a lack of awareness of autism in the community, We've invested in whole of farm awareness sessions, as well as strategic extension to managers, mentors and trainers. The sessions are targeted at providing the facts, breaking down stereotypes, equipping people with the knowledge and skills to support autistic people in the workplace, and very importantly, to providing a forum where people can safely ask any questions they may have. Recognising that English is not the first language for many of our employees and their families, we provide written supports to these sessions in both English and Filipino, as you can see here on the right. The success of Autism and Agriculture simply would not be possible without buy-in from our farms teams. Their engagement, commitment and ownership has been instrumental, and supporting them has been pivotal to the outcomes for our autistic employees. So, with that very short summary of the program, where are we now and what does it all mean? Well, we've demonstrated that shifting the recruitment paradigm away from the traditional resume, interview, let's get working process to a person-centred approach really does work. Not everyone automatically fits a role description. Not everyone is suited to the resume, interview, induction, commencement process more typical of employment systems. And if we can't be flexible and equitable in our approach, we have neither an inclusive workplace nor one that is fully capable of utilising the human resources that are out there to help us achieve our animal care outcomes. Providing people with a chance to learn and show what they can do, rather than expecting them to navigate a process that is riddled with barriers for autistic people, has been a relatively simple accommodation to make, and it's had transformative impacts. And we've absolutely demonstrated that autistic individuals not only have the skills, but the commitment, motivation, affinity and empathy to work in animal care and to support optimal animal care and welfare outcomes. I can honestly say that I've never seen such courage and perseverance as we've seen with our autistic employees, as they work with us to develop new practical skills, navigate the social nuance of the farming workplace and adapt to employment. Their achievements are truly remarkable. We have 10 permanent autistic employees across our Queensland and South Australian farming systems, each with up to 5 years service now under their belt. Prior to SunPork, none had had long-term employment, despite many having completed further education up to and including an honours degree in animal science. All have now completed their stock person skill set. 4 have completed their Certificate 3 in pig production. We have one employee who now calls herself a pig midwife and will happily tell you that she gains enormous reward and satisfaction from helping her newborn piglets. We have another who was awarded our Whole of Group Trainee of the Year in 2019. We've seen firsthand their motivation, commitment, determination, courage, skills, empathy with animals and capacity. We just needed to provide them an equitable pathway to employment. Now they have the satisfaction and reward of meaningful work and all that it brings. Financial independence, the ability to buy a car, to live independently and to go on a self-funded holiday. All those things many of us are fortunate enough to be able to take for granted. And personal development in the form of confidence, friendships and a sense of belonging to a team that recognises and values them for who they are. And the benefits reach far beyond them to their families and extended support networks, who take great comfort and relief in knowing that these individuals have a future that is theirs to own. At the same time, as a business, we've been able to scrutinise traditional recruitment methodologies, and we've thrown much of it out the door, with transformative outcomes not only for our autistic employees, but for the trainers, mentors, managers and wider teams that they work with. It's fostered teamwork, engagement and provided an immense sense of achievement and satisfaction for staff. It's given them an opportunity to give back to their wider community, and this has fostered business pride. It's built leadership capacity and people skills across all levels of our business. And in turn, beyond the capabilities of the individuals themselves, these wider business benefits support a workplace culture and capability that is better positioned to deliver animal care outcomes. With the right people comes the right level of care. When you focus on your people, the rest follows. So in summary, and speaking to the animal welfare focus of today's session, what has Autism and Agriculture taught us? Well, our experience is that the welfare of people and animals are interwoven. Where we get people right, animal care and welfare outcomes will often follow. Autism and Agriculture has demonstrated that autistic people have valuable skills to bring to a workplace, and that these extend to empathy, competency and good care of animals. At the same time, I have to emphasise that the major learnings from Autism and Agriculture really aren't about autism. They're largely about workplace and community attitudes, understanding and approach to those who are different, and that while ever we stay in the traditional recruitment lane, we're missing opportunities to bring motivated, capable people into animal care roles, and we're missing the benefits they might deliver to animal welfare outcomes. We need to think more equitably, we need to be more inclusive. We need to stop the desired process driving the outcome and focus on the desired outcome informing the process. We need to take a people-centred approach, employ people versus roles, provide flexibility, support differences and work to strengths, rather than penalising deficits. Autism and Agriculture has also highlighted to us just how important robust employee training and support systems are to animal care outcomes. Whilst it's critical to autistic employees, this learning is absolutely transferable beyond them to the workplace generally. Too often, training and support systems and delivery aren't prioritised, and it's a truly false economy. Where we invest time and rigour in people systems, in their training and in their support, we see a range of improved outcomes, one of which is improved animal care capabilities. The right person with the right skills being trained and supported in the right way will deliver competent, consistent animal care, and positive animal welfare outcomes should naturally follow. But if those people don't even get a foot in the door because systematic barriers preclude them, well, there's a loss that extends not only to animal care and welfare, but to the welfare of that individual and the wider community. So I guess the key message that I'll close with is that we need to challenge traditional employment paradigms in order to best ensure that all those who do have something to offer animal care and welfare have the opportunity to do so. Thanks again for inviting us to join you on TAWC Talks.